honeys, it's Yolz and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video because besides the fact that I'm trying to film it again, I filmed it last week but I felt like it wasn't structured enough. So this week I want to structure it, which I already have on my phone. Notes help a lot. So today we are talking about my career story. I want to delve into where I started, from what I studied to how I got into my graduate program, and of course talking numbers, talking salaries before pursuing YouTube full-time. I think this will be really helpful. I did do a live about a week and a half ago on Instagram and a lot of you literally DM me saying this is information we need. Nobody knows how to navigate their way to a career they want, and I was in a career which I truly did enjoy, an industry that I still now dibble and dabble at times in. So yeah, I want to get into that. So without any further ado, let's get straight into this video. I have an undergrad degree, that's just a BCom degree, which I majored in finance and investments. So I did macro and micro economics as minors, so I did them right up until my final year of university, but I majored in finance and investments. Those were my main modules. So first year I started off studying BCom accounting because I wanted to be the CA my family wanted me to be, and then I didn't like it. I actually did that for a year and a half and then in the middle of my second year I was like, this is not what I want. Let me actually change into something similar that will not extend my stay at university. So it was a 4-year program that I'd entered from BCom accounting. I know if I had started with finance it would have just been a 3-year program, but then I was like, it's too late. Let me do it anyway, and I do not regret it. I did really well. My first year was a basic write-off. I scraped through it with 50% and like subs. I had one sub which was I think statistics. Nonetheless, in my second year when I did get into my finance degree, I really started seeing A's because I actually enjoyed it. I've learned in my short life that whatever you enjoy, you tend to give it your all, even if it means sacrificing and losing something like friends in the process. With family, sometimes those sacrifices are so worth it if you're putting it in something that you know will yield a certain, you know, great outcome for you and your future, and hopefully even those you've lost along the way will see that it was worth it for you and your own academics and also mental health. So anyway, that's not part of the video, but it's really important to mention that. So yeah, I met a new group of friends in the second half of my second year and I joined study groups. This helped me a lot through university. That one study group of friends were also people I prayed with. They were part of a women's group which I led, a Christian women's group, and we prayed together, we studied together, we played together, we did everything together. But more than that, there were people who were really focused on their studies. So for my whole finance program, I really had a lot of A's, B's, and if it was really bad I got C's, and that's how I think I got into the graduate program that I ended up getting in my final year of varsity. I had a pretty good transcript coming out of varsity. Even though my first year was rough, I think employers definitely look at progress even if you started off really rough like I did. But yeah, it got me a good paying job once I was out of varsity. I didn't do my honors because I really wanted to provide for my family immediately after varsity. I come from a underprivileged background, so I wanted to support my mom. I wanted to buy a house right after varsity. So those were my dreams and goals at the time, and I thought honors would be something I do after I've worked about 2 or 3 years, you know. So getting into the graduate program, I applied around August like every other graduate in their final year, but I got rejected quite a lot from a lot of different corporates, and then in December, which I've spoken about, of my final year, I got a job offer from Nedbank. I went to the interview, killed it. January I got a call and I was told I'd be earning 235,000 rand a year. It was about 19,500 rand a month gross. I was only taxed, so there were no benefits. Obviously it's a graduate program. I think internships work the same, where they just deduct your tax which was great because I was taking home a good 17,500 rand. So that was really good, and I was saving around 6,500 a month. I started off in private wealth. Now here's the thing about working in corporate: you get to learn in every corporate setting there are tiers, right? So you get your lower end, your entry level, like the bank, which would be a branch. Then you get your business banking, your corporate banking, and then right on top you get your private wealth, your niche sort of departments, your investment banking. And as you see the triangle going up, so does the salary offering. I was right on top, which is why I started off with a really high salary in the first year of me working in a graduate program. Those who worked in the branch earned far lower than what I did from what I was told. And then there were corporate, then there were people who were working in corporate banking. They earned a little bit less than I did, but they were still higher than your entry level banking level. This is really crucial to understand because in any sector you will find that. What's also paramount to understand is that specialist roles are similar, okay? Like a GP would earn far less than a specialist, and you need to understand this when you're choosing your career and also when you're applying for jobs. Where you apply, understand the fact that if it's at the bottom of the pyramid, you're going to be doing a lot of work for very little money, but if it's closer to the top, you know, you are most likely to earn a little bit more. Of course, as a graduate, you kind of spread the market when you're applying, but if you've done your research properly, you will apply to places where you want to grow in terms of your career. How do you know it's the right career for you? You don't. To be honest with you, you only really know once you're in it. That is the truth. For me, I started off as a graduate product manager in private wealth, and I didn't like it. 8 months in, I started looking around. I spoke to other graduates, and I found out that the corporate graduates who were working in property finance really enjoyed what they did, and that's mainly because they saw the asset that they were selling. In a sense, you know, they were financing buildings and commercial buildings, that is, and they really enjoyed it because they got to go out, they got to see clients, and for me that was more exciting than approving somebody's Ferrari. Because we were working with high net worth clients, that's literally what I was doing. I was a trainee for a managerial position where I was literally approving finance for high net worth clients. So it was all Ferraris, Maseratis, Lamborghinis, whatever rich people actually buy in terms of vehicles. So it got boring because that's all I was doing, looking at better rates, giving people prime less 2%, and that was literally it, working with private bankers, their private bankers, and not really seeing the client. Plus I realized that I didn't want to see a one-on-one basis of a client. So I wanted big clients that had corporations or businesses, but I didn't want business banking because I understood they are very close to the bottom of the pyramid. They're not right at the end, but I still wanted the money, you know. So I decided to apply for a lending analyst position, which was in property finance. I had obviously been part of the graduate program, and at the bank that I worked at, all graduates get to see each other once a month, and they have training in Johannesburg. So I worked in Cape Town, and every single month we'd see each other, and every time I spoke to these property finance graduates, it just seemed like a world I wanted to enter in and a business that I wanted to explore. And I realized the position they were offering was more so for somebody who's going to grow into a sales position. I was like, right up my alley. Also, as a lending analyst, they were offering 18 months of basic training around the property finance business as a whole. So you get to sort of rotate, spend a lot of time with the valuations team, spend a lot of time with the credit team. Those are the people who approve, obviously, the big credits for your Sandton cities, your big builders, your Century cities, okay? And the team that I worked with were sales managers. They were relationship managers, and they were the people who were basically talking to your redefines, and they were like, okay, cool, you want to buy a multi-use property with a hotel, with a mall, and with a small resi, you know? Or we're looking at portfolios where we were reading and reviewing certain portfolios, and we were like, well, it's time to sell this one so that you can have funds to finance a new project and that kind of thing. So it was a really exciting world. I got that job. It was a permanent position, so I was no longer a grad by September of my first year of working, and I got an increase, of course. I think I was earning around 22,000 rand by that time, and now because I was full-time employee, I was getting benefits, so I was going home with around maybe 18 26,000. It wasn't really a big difference, 18 or 19,000 rand take home, because I had now pension and I was starting to be more aggressive with like learning about certain investments, okay? But it was really passive investments like unit trusts and stuff like that. So yeah, fast forward, I stayed about 18 months in that role fully, and I was able to get my first bonus within the first 6 months. Bonus season is around March, so after 6 months my boss was really impressed with my progress, and by then I got to learn my way around the ropes and see where I wanted to grow in that space. I realized then that I did not like the bank in general, just because I was boxed in terms of my thinking. You're not really encouraged to have entrepreneurial ideas. You can, but they're really restricted. Plus, you know, the financial services board sort of guides a lot of the things, so I couldn't really like go all out there. But I wanted to move to Joburg because my counterparts this side, in terms of like similar teams who were more of my black fellow people this side, and I thought to myself, there's definitely more growth potential in Johannesburg. I ended up not getting that position just because there were invisible walls there were invisible ceilings, there were people who basically created gates closed doors for me not to get in. And I realized then also the Cape Town market was just not for me and my skin tone. So around the end of my second year of working at the bank, I decided to hand in my resignation. Didn't have much of a plan. I applied at IMM to study marketing because I still wanted to pursue my media dreams. That also was like, you know, something I was still toying around, and I was willing to leave the corporate market just because I felt so boxed and my personality was sort of squashed and reduced to just another banker, you know. So I gave a 2-month notice period, and then I moved to Joburg in December. So during the time I was thinking of leaving, I had friends in Joburg who wanted my CV and were like, we're willing to throw it around, even though I was willing to go ahead and study here in Joburg and follow my dreams at the same time, my media dreams, which was TV and commercials, which was what I really was hoping to do when I got here. Didn't happen. I got headhunted the following month. So in Joburg, technically I spent like 25 days unemployed. I got a call from a commercial property firm who received my CV from a friend of mine, so I got headhunted. They had already called my references, and they were pretty sure about their choice, but they wanted to obviously see me. This was a panel interview and I practiced. I remember literally Googling and YouTubing, finding out how I can nail this interview. It was a panel interview with the CEO, COO, and of course the head of that department. Got that job and I got to negotiate my salary. This was the first time in corporate where I really got to get into the numbers. I went in there with a number in my head, which is very important in any job, to go in there knowing what you want. I think my number in my head was around 300k, because at the time I was earning at Nedbank around 260 or 270 a year. I don't actually remember the numbers correctly, but they were still around the 200s. But I quite remember the fact that when I went in there, that was the number I had in mind, and the person interviewing me asked the CEO and the COO to leave the room while we discussed the finances. He came in at like 10,000 or 20,000 rand more than what I earned at Nedbank, and I was just like, no brother. I went out all the way up to 350. I was like, this is what I want. He said no to the 350, but then he said 300. We literally went back and forth until it got to a number that was 325. I was so glad I negotiated, because I ended up getting more than what I went into that room actually wanting. And the one thing I learned is, even if you have the number that you want, the one number that you want to land on, always go in higher to give room for that negotiation, so that also you don't seem like you are too rigid on the number. Okay, so I came in there saying I wanted 350, knowing very well that if I fall on 300 I would be super happy, and I ended up getting 325. I worked my butt off that year and I got 100,000 rand bonus, and also a 48% bump up. So within that first year of working, when it came to bonus season and increase season, I got to earn around R500,000. Now that was basically my final year of working in corporate. So I finished that year. Then it was increase season again and negotiation season for bonuses, and I didn't get much really. The company wasn't doing too well by the second year of me working there, and that was near the end of my corporate career. So at this point I was a senior analyst in the capital market space, and at this point I was really putting together memos for buildings that we were selling, commercial buildings, mainly around Joburg, South Africa, and then sub-Saharan Africa as well, and it was mainly East and West Africa. This was a really great job, gave me so much experience, and I got to also travel. I got to run a few projects by myself. This is also the job where I got to see East and West Africa, Nigeria, Tanzania, Kenya. So it was a great, fantastic job. While there, I started feeling as though, you know, it's time to go, Yolz. I think what helped as well was my side hustle. I was doing YouTube and I was in a long-term contract already. I was earning every single month, so I had multiple streams of income. I was saving, and I was in a good position to say whenever I was ready, it's time to go, I really could jump. So at that point as well, I did not feel as though I was getting to a point where my bosses were going to open up even more opportunities for me. This is very important in every career, to evaluate and assess things. Of course, the business wasn't doing too well already, the South African leg of the business. I was working for an international company. Thankfully in 2018 I just had that nudge feeling, this is the year I'm letting go. I did not know when, but I prayed and prayed and prayed for God to guide me on when to do it. The day I quit, I knew it was time to leave. Intuition, but mostly I think God just said this is time. I had so much peace once I did it. 6 weeks after my actual resignation date, most of my team, 90% of my team members, were all retrenched. And again, once again, it was just God and God alone who knew. I would have had no idea that that was going to happen. So that did happen, and only one team member stayed and one head stayed. The other head, we had two heads for sub-Saharan Africa. The other head was forced to resign, and about 5 or 6 of my close colleagues, team members, lost their jobs. Okay, and they had literally 2 weeks 2 weeks to pack their bags and go. So yeah, that happened middle of May. So that was basically my corporate career. I left corporate earning a little over 40k a month, but with 4.5 years experience, I think the growth was more important for me, the knowledge, of course, and most importantly, this is not a story for everyone. We don't all have the same journey. Even though I had an entry-level position when I got into corporate altogether, I was in a high-paying sector and also in one of the highest paying departments, so in banking in general. Okay, I got in right at the top rather than being in the branch and earning less. Every career is different, but I do want to encourage you, if you are still a student, definitely look into the different types of careers that your degree can give you and find out where you can pivot, find out about how you can branch out. And you know what, also, it's never too late to add a different course to substitute for whatever it is that you really want, even if it means a year's loss of income, you know, for more income. But more importantly, you want to enjoy it. More than anything, you want to do something that you fully enjoy and you're earning while you're at it. So yeah, that is it from me, guys. Let me know if you've got any further questions below. Somebody decides to join us. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Comment. I love you guys so much.
Hi.